All right. Well, welcome to the show. I thought we might just start with we're going back to your background, like your sporting background, your childhood, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Thanks for having me on the show, by the way. It
Pleasure.
only it only took how many years?
It took a few years, and I apologize.
No, no worries. Um, no, it's good to be here, good to chat with you. I think we've only spoken at races in the past, right? Like
Yeah,
other
yeah,
than, short conversations here and there.
yeah.
But in terms of my background, man, like this I'm living it. I'm living my background. I was born to be an athlete. My dad was a runner. He was a bodybuilder, um, professional bodybuilder, a professional arm wrestler. So growing up, I was always around two things. I was around endurance sports with my dad doing marathons and whatnot, and I was around strength training. My garage as a kid, uh, my dad did what I did. He turned the garage into his own personal gym. So as a kid growing up, seeing my dad do bench press and dumbbell curls and things like that, obviously rubbed off on me. And at that point, I really didn't have a choice in terms of like the trajectory of like where my life was headed. I mean, I was going to follow in my dad's footsteps one way or the other. And, it turned out to be running. Running was like the first thing that I guess I got recognition for like being pretty good at it. And the moment I got that recognition, it felt good internally. And I wanted to just keep feeling that way. So I went all in on running. I don't know if anyone, knows the extent of, I guess, my youth running career, but they called me like a prodigy. I mean, I was setting national records in 5K, 8K, 10K, 10-mile half marathon at like age 7, 8, 9, 10. I was going out and doing road races. And then I was competing in the Junior Olympics as well. So um, I was all in. I mean, every weekend wasn't like a normal kid's weekend. I was going away to a different state to compete in some sort of running event, and that led to running in high school. Obviously, was pretty good in high school. Not great. I wasn't good enough to go Division 1, but I did get a college scholarship to go run Division 2 at a university called Concord in the state of West Virginia. Um, was a conference champion in the 3,000 meter steeplechase. I also focused on the 5,000 meters and the 1,500. But the 3K steeple was my bread and butter. Like that was the event I loved and was the best at. And when college was over, it was a hard thing for me to deal with because I knew that was probably the end of this run in terms of being an athlete and then taking it to the next level, because the reality was I wasn't good enough to become a professional runner. Like that just wasn't in the cards for me. And I was always a little too big. I was one of the bigger guys, as most of the guys in HYROX, anyone that comes from a running background, most of them probably were stronger than the other runners or whatever the case may be. And that was the case for me. I always joked and said, if there was ever a track race where you had to stop every lap and do like pull-ups and push-ups, I would win every single time. And obviously this is long before I ever got introduced to Spartan race, obstacle course racing, and HYROX and whatnot. But I always knew that I liked these two sorts of fitness. I liked combining the two.
Hmm.
And after college, I experimented with that in some degree on my own, you know, just having fun with training more or less. And I was still running, lifting, whatnot. And then when I was in my mid late 20s, a friend asked me if I had ever heard a Spartan race, and I was like, no, never heard of it. What is it? And he, pulled it up online and showed it to me. And I was like, oh, like this looks cool. Like they were running up mountains and, traversing across like these, technical like rigs, more or less fancy monkey bars, and crawling under barbed wire, but also carrying sandbags up mountains. And I was like, dude, this is it. Like, this is for me. And here's my second chance, to be a professional athlete. I thought that was kind of in the past, and Spartan Race gave me that second opportunity to live out my dream. And long story short, that was I was all in at that moment. And one thing led to the next. I got introduced to DecaFit and HYROX, and come to find out, I enjoyed that kind of training. I was training this way when I was doing Spartan Race too, but it translates more to the race course for HYROX and DecaFit. And once that kind of evolved into what it is now, it's like, yeah, like this is what I want to be doing. And like I said, it's been like a second life on being an athlete, because coming out of college, I thought that was over, and it was like, all right, what am I going to do with my life now? I don't have a plan B. I got to figure this out. And it was kind of one of those things where you don't expect it to come, and one day it just shows up, and it sort of felt like it was meant to be in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've just been kind of off and running with it since. But it's been, I'm 39 now, so I started running competitively when I was age 4. So you're looking at 35 years of pushing the limits and trying to find my boundaries, and waking up every day with discipline and motivation, training, setting goals, chasing races. It's over 3 decades now, and it's weird for me to think about, because I don't feel old by any means, but when I look back on my whole life, I'm like, man, like I've been doing this like one thing for 30 some years, and it's kind of crazy to think about.
Did you always enjoy the running from the age of 4? Was it like something you
No,
loved?
no. So when I was a kid, I actually hated it. My dad would force me to go train every single day. Um, and I just wanted to play with my friends, and be a normal kid. And there were actually newspaper articles that came out that said, in our local newspaper, not, it wasn't like nationwide or anything, but there were some articles that came out that my dad was abusing his kids by pushing them so hard. And it wasn't just me; it was my 2 sisters as well, who they're 5 years younger than me. But one of them had a really bright future, and chased it for a while until her her potential and her enjoyment for it didn't like line up. Like, she had all the potential in the world, but she wasn't in love with it in the way that I was, And but yeah, there were these newspaper articles that said my dad was abusing his kids by pushing them too hard, and um, you know, I didn't think so at the time. It was just like, my dad's making me do something I don't want to do, but I'm gonna go do it because he's my dad. He's telling me what to do. But it wasn't until, like I said, I started getting recognition for it, and like understanding what that meant, and the attention that came with that, where I was like, oh, this is different. This feels nice. And that was when I think the shift happened from feeling like I was pushed to do something I didn't want to do, into, hey, I'm actually like pretty good at this, and people are noticing, and like this feels good. So let's keep doing this, whether I really want to do it or not. It's kind of pointless. Like, I like this feeling, so let's keep riding with it.
Yeah. Do you, like, now you've got kids? Like, would you take the same approach with them that your dad took with you? And
I I wouldn't, but I don't feel like I even have to, because when I'm out training in the garage, my son will come out there, and he'll like make up his own workout while I'm doing mine. Like, I won't even have to say, hey, why don't you come out in the garage with me, and you know hop on the treadmill while I'm on the rower or the skier, like whatever. Like, he just comes out there and does his own thing, and he makes like a little station circuit for himself. Like, he'll set up little 5-pound dumbbells, 10-pound dumbbells. I've got these different sizes of box jumps where he'll like climb up on the box and jump down. He does burpee broad jumps. Like, I don't even have to tell him these things. He just sees it's the power of monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
sees me doing this and he wants to be like his old man. And, he comes out there and is part of it. I don't have to force him at all. And I've had this talk with my wife and we're like, if he wants to do this, I'm behind him 100%. But if he chooses a completely different path of whatever that is, like I'm gonna love him just the same. I don't know. I think my dad, like, it was this or nothing, But it's like, for me, it's like, if he wants to do it, like, that's great. But, like, the world is what you want it to be, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I've got to ask you, you mentioned your dad was a professional arm wrestler as well.
Yeah.
So he just competed and earned money doing that, did he?
He did. He did. And this was back in the late 70s when Arnold, was in his heyday, and like arm wrestling. They even made a movie with Sylvester Stallone. It's called Over the Top. Um, there was that phase in the 70s and 80s. Arm wrestling was massive. And they have different weight classes. It wasn't like he was the best out of everybody in the world, but it's like MMA. There's different weight classes. And he won a world title in he was like 145 to 155 or something like that, pounds, weight division. And he had this, like, really, back in the, I mean, he wasn't making a lot of money. You couldn't really make a living off of this. It was more just like bragging rights and um, like a big D measuring contest, if you will,
Yeah.
But he did get a fat ring that they gave him for winning the world championships. It's this really sick ring that he used to just, I don't remember him wearing it much, but he had it in a case. And sometimes as a kid, I would go, like, put it on my finger, and that was like the thing he got for
Awesome.
winning it. Yeah.
I don't know if you know, when I interviewed Alex Ronchevich, I asked him when he won the world champs in Nice, he wore a cap throughout the race, and I asked him why he wore a cap, and like over the top was a big
Oh, was it?
motivator for that. Yeah, because Stallone wears the cap and then like turns it around
Yeah,
when
yeah,
he's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
When he gets serious.
yeah. So I think Alex is
Yeah.
a big fan of that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Alex knows. Alex knows about it.
yeah, yeah. You were also on a program that the selection. I think that was that like a nationwide program in the US.
Yeah, yeah, and I later became worldwide, because I would get DMs like years after the show came out, and they're like, "Hey, we just saw you on the show. The selection, it just aired here in Australia or Asia or wherever." Um, but yeah, this was in 2016, I believe. So almost 10 years ago, which again is like crazy to think about because it feels like yesterday. I'm still in a group chat with some of the people that I was on that show with. But yeah, it was a cool experience that I got to be a part of. They took 30 civilians um, from different sporting backgrounds, and they put us through essentially just like different special forces tasks for 2 weeks. And you could quit when you wanted to quit. They weren't going to boot you off the show. It was kind of like, when you've had enough, you say you're done, and then that's how you exit the show. So as long as you can keep dealing with whatever they're dishing out, you can keep going and going. And it started pretty basic with just like boot camp style stuff, like push-ups, sit-ups, crawling through the mud, just like basic stuff they put you through when you're about to join the military. And then it evolved into more challenging tasks, and even away from like physical tasks, it became like psychological and mental. I don't know how deep you want to get into it, but they put me in solitary confinement in a very small box where I couldn't even move, and locked me in there for several hours. And they threw me in the deep end of a swimming pool with my hands and feet tied behind my back, and you basically have to sink yourself to the bottom by blowing air out of your nose and then pushing yourself up off the bottom floor, getting that quick breath at the top before you go and sink back down. And you had to do that for, I think, 5 to 10 minutes
Wow.
straight. there were all kinds of things. If you want to check it out, I think all the episodes, the selection, special operations experiment, they were all on YouTube. I know they're on Hulu. Um, but yeah, I mean, to this day, it was, or it is still like one of the hardest things I've ever endured. And it took me at least like 6 months to recover from that
Really?
event, both physically and mentally. Like when I got done with it, it ended up being 12 or 13 days. Um, I was just like, I felt like I didn't even realize that after 2 days, I didn't even notice the cameras anymore. I just assumed this was my life and this was my existence and like nothing else, even like family, whatever. Like this is my life. I'm in it, and completely bought in that way. So when it was over, it was honestly kind of a weird transition back into society because we were out in the desert. We didn't have access to phones, or you couldn't communicate with anyone. It was like this insane disconnect with the world. And after just 2 weeks of that, trying to go back and getting back to my hotel room. Oh, by the way, I was one. Should I spoil it? I don't know, but I was one of four athletes of out of the 30 to make it all the way through the entire course. So 26 of the 30, quit at some point
Wow.
in the course. And I remember getting back after it was over, got super emotional. And then, they drive you back to the hotel, which we've been sleeping in barracks, like military style stuff. And I was so used to that. And like I said, this was only 2 weeks. Went back to my hotel room, and like I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and it was like muddy. My facial hair had grown out. Like I hadn't done my hair up, in 2 weeks. Like I looked like I'd been at war, and I remember turning on the shower and just standing in like a nice warm shower, and that being something that I'd never even like noticed before, just how nice it felt because I hadn't had that, in
Yeah.
just 2 weeks. So it gave me a whole new perspective and a whole new appreciation on our military and what they go through, um, because they do it for much longer and it is real. Mine was 2 weeks, and it was, it was real circumstance, but it wasn't real in terms of like, I get to go home to my family after this. I'm not being deployed off to Afghanistan or
Yeah.
whatever. So, I was just like, wow, like my hat's off to the military, man, because after 2 weeks, I was just like, like I said, the little things, the shower, having a nice warm meal. You're not eating the MREs out of that plastic. Like it was just the little things. But yeah, it was an experience that I'm super grateful for, and it's without a doubt like changed me in so many ways.
I was going to ask, has it changed you? Like, do you feel like you've benefit from it, like from a mindset perspective, and then competing in
Yeah,
sports? Yeah.
yeah. Like it. How can you not? How can you not make it through something? Most people quit and not feel a sense of like there's nothing you can throw at me that I
Yeah.
can't get through. Or,
Yeah.
like, and it's not that there weren't difficult times in that experience. There were times when I contemplated internally of quitting and giving up. But it was that pushing through that I think I'm most proud of. And in some ways, I've been dealing with that in my own life in the last like 2 years of trying to get myself back to where I feel like I belong in this sport. But knowing that I can get through difficult challenges gives me hope and belief that, as long as I keep showing up and keep putting in the work and, not running from this, but like just take it on and deal with it, like eventually you're going to get to where you want to get to. You just
Hmm.
got to keep charging.
Yeah. I I want to talk about like the past few years in HYROX and everything like that. But you've been around the sport for a long time. Um, do you have any like favorite experiences? Like, if what's your best HYROX experience?
Man, there's there's a few that come to mind. The first one would be when I broke 60 in New York in 2019. because it was actually the first time anyone had broken 60 in the US. And this was back when, the United States, we claimed our courses were harder, slower, sleds were heavier. So breaking 60 here in the States was a big deal. And doing that in 2019 in New York, my second HYROX event, um, that felt pretty like it just felt like a big deal, you know? And that, I got the attention, the recognition, and that just kind of fueled me to keep going with this thing. And I guess my next big moment would be when I took Hunter down at the North American Championships in Chicago. It was a day where I think Hunter had a good day. It wasn't like I caught Hunter on a bad day and, upped him. This was a day where we were both kind of on our A game, and I beat him. And Hunter's a good friend of mine. I've been friends with Hunter for over a decade now, but I also have so much respect for him and what he's done in this sport. And I truly believe he's one of the most freakish athletes on the planet. So to beat someone like that on a day where they're having a day, again, it just kind of fueled me to keep going. And the third thing, or the third race, would be winning the major in Chicago in
Mm-hmm.
2023. Um, yeah, probably my strongest performance to date. Um, just really proud of that. Really proud of that race. And Rylan, rest in peace, Rylan. He's the one. He kept me on my toes that whole race. Every time, I was proud of the way I executed that one, because Rylan was gaining on me on every single run. But then we get into the stations, and I was like, dude, whatever he made up on you on the run, you need to now make that up on him on the station. So it was this weird kind of cat and mouse game that I don't know if the viewers can pick up on, but it was happening, where Rylan would gain on me, and then I was sort of preserving myself so that I could get into the stations and be able to attack them a little bit. And ultimately held him off in the end. So those three would be like the ones that really stand
Yeah.
out the most.
That like the major, the Chicago major, was really like the first properly televised, like live streamed major
And
that they did. As
it was, and
yeah,
that one's so much better than the live streams they've done before that. But if you go watch that one now compared to what they have, I'm like, I couldn't have picked like a different race to do well in, with a little better quality, where you can actually see the wall balls. There's not this big freaking metal post in the way.
yeah, yeah.
No, but yeah, I think that was like one of their first big live streams that they invested some good money into.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a strong field of guys that day as well. And like, yeah, I think
Yeah,
you
it
ran
was
55 something, didn't you? It was, yeah,
55-12.
super
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned Rylan just then as well. Rest in peace, obviously. You raced in doubles in Chicago with him. Um, like how was that race for you at the World Championships? I'm talking about 2025 World Champs. Like, how did that race go?
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible experience for sure. To back things up a little bit, Rylan reached out to me. I think it was I don't know, maybe been a few months before Worlds, and you know, asked me to be his partner. And he's like, "Hey, I know you've been struggling, with the loss of your father, um, but I still believe in you." And he, at the time, he was still, you know, dealing with his own health issues. So it was kind of like, "Hey, let's come together and let's try to prove that, we still got it and we can still compete at a high level." So it was two guys with a chip on their shoulder coming together to try to prove something. And, to do that with Rylan, the first race we ran together, we broke the world record in Miami, but we just happened to be beaten by, Rich and Pelayo on the same day. But that was really cool. And it was like, hey, we work well together. We're a good team. Like, let's keep doing this. And, we were going to run it back this year. And, see what we could accomplish, because going back to Worlds, we felt like we let that one kind of slip out of our hands a little bit. A few errors on our part that I don't know if it would have changed the outcome in terms of winning the race, maybe. Um, but I think we both left that race feeling happy, I guess, or we were okay with getting third. It was we were on the podium. It was awesome. We ran a great race, but I think both of us felt like, man, like we could have won this race, and we let it kind of slip right out of our hands. But um, that's all. That's racing. There's that's happened so many times, and it'll continue to happen in the past. Like when the opportunities present themselves on course, you got to take advantage of them. And if you don't, well, it might not work out for you in the end. And that's kind of how it was at Worlds. But we were so excited, man. We were so excited to team back up this year and kind of go see if we could right that wrong and try to bring home a world title.
Yeah, yeah. You sort of you mentioned he reached out to you, but can you, like, obviously it's like devastating Rylan passing away like since then, and like the community, like obviously the reaction from the community shows like what kind of person he was and like how many people he touched. But can you touch on like, your perception of him, racing with him, what kind of person he was?
Yeah, I'll be straight up. When Rylan first came onto the scene, I didn't like him. I didn't like him because I'm like, who is this new guy? Good looking, right? Strong physique, talented, and me being me, like I'm not as I wouldn't say I'm not as or I'm not as egotistical as I was 10 years ago. I still have a little bit of an ego, but not what it was. But like when Rylan came onto the scene, I was like, who's this guy coming in thinking he's going to take my spot? Because first he went into, Deca Fit, and that was where I started racing head to head with Rylan before HYROX. And I found out real quickly that the Rylan was for real. And anytime he was on the start line, I was going to have to like be on my A game or I was going to get beat. And we had some really, really good battles. And through these early battles where we were just duking it out, man. Like in Deca, we were just going blow for blow. And it wasn't until after we kind of had these crazy races where I think our relationship shifted. We ended up going to Dubai to compete at the Gov Games, this event called the Gov Games. And we were on the same team. It was me, Rylan, Chris Verglosky, VJ Jones, Jack Bauer from Race Brain. And it was like this obstacle course event. And that was like an opportunity for me to connect because we were in the hotel for, over a week and a half and training together. And it was an opportunity to connect on him on like a personal, deeper level. And like and this has happened many times where I don't like an athlete. Maybe I'm intimidated by them or I don't want them to come try to take my spot, whatever the case may be. But then you talk to that individual outside of the race course, you have a beer with them and you're like, hey, this guy's all right. I wish I could hate him, but I can't. Like I like the guy. And that was how it was with Rylan. Like after, 10 minutes of talking to him, I was like, dang, like this guy's solid. And
Yeah.
he wore his faith on his sleeve. And I'm not the most religious person, but like I admired um kind of his like dedication to his faith. And
Mhm.
he always had his Bible with him. Like anytime we shared a hotel room at a race, like you could always count on Rylan like reading his Bible, just like sitting on his bed. Like you're in the room with you're on your bed and you're like, hey, you want to talk? But he's like in his Bible, just like reading and always always, he was great at like lifting you up after a race or something like that. He always had the right words to say to kind of get you in a better headspace. And he was just, he was a giving person.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people felt that, it's not just me. There's so many people that know what I'm talking about out there. And he always made you feel like you were like the most important person, like in the room when you're talking to him.
Yeah.
And it still feels, it like still doesn't even feel real that it
Mm.
happened, you know? Like it's crazy. Like, today I thought about him and I was like, oh, like that happened? Oh, it did happen.
Yeah.
Like there's like you think you can just pick up your phone and text him and like he'll respond and um it's just like such a crazy thing.
Yeah. I just thought that funny enough when I asked you the question about Chicago, and I'm like, wow, Chicago seems so recent, and now we're talking about this, and it's like it's
Hmm.
crazy. Um, but yeah, you're right. I agree, and like you're right about like makes you feel the most important person in the room, and like he's just like so interested in everyone and helping everyone. Um, yeah. Do you feel like racing with him, like you mentioned, you've struggled really since that Chicago major with your own performances, and uh, I know you recently ran in Boston, like done a sub 60 in Boston. So hopefully you're sort of coming out of that
Yeah,
lull now. Do you feel like racing doubles and racing with Rylan did help you, get through that period and get to where you are now?
definitely. It definitely did because I was kind of committed to just doing doubles for the foreseeable future. I was like, I sort of felt like I was trying to force this comeback, and it wasn't. Going to back up a little bit, like at Chicago, I was in the best shape of my life, like without a doubt, like the strongest fitness I've ever had in terms of HYROX fitness. And um, just before Vienna, I think Vienna was the next major. I felt like I had actually gotten fitter since Chicago, so I was like, yo, like it's on this season, like no injuries, just training's clicking, like everything is just firing on all cylinders. And it was like a week and a half before Vienna that I got the news about my dad, which I knew it was coming, it wasn't like a sudden or, unexpected thing. Um, and that obviously, like, we started this podcast by talking about my dad and the influence he's had on me. So like to lose somebody like that, I mean, you can't just like try to go race and pretend it didn't happen. Like
Mm.
it's not going to work. And I tried to overcome that, in Vienna, which didn't go well. And then I think Washington, D.C. was the next one. And I was like, I remember going into that one feeling like, okay, if I can just find a way here to rebound, people will forget all about what happened in Vienna and more time will pass. I can deal with this. I can get over this and I'll be able to like move forward. So Washington D.C. was like my last ditch effort to just prove that I was like over this, and I got fourth, which was okay. Like it was okay, but it it took everything out of me that day, like both physically, mentally, emotionally in that race. There was like two or three times where I tempted to walk off the course, but kept going, and like I just fought. I gave it everything I had, and fourth was the best I could do. But that was after that, it just went even further downhill. That was when a bunch of DNFs started happening, and just kept trying to race my way back into what I felt like was like my spot to be. And it took much longer than I would have liked to admit this, but I knew I was forcing it and was trying to fit, what do they say? A square peg in a round hole. It was like, dude, like you're not ready to race. Like physically you're in shape because in training I'm hitting a lot of the same, like splits and workouts. It's not like there was this physical drop off, but mentally if you're not in it, man, like you really don't stand a chance in HYROX. Like there's no chance. And, for me, I felt like most of my life when I race, I'm almost like a machine. I have no emotions. I don't think about anything outside of what's happening right then. Like I won't even notice really people watching the race. You're just so present and focused on every little thing. And it went from that to starting a race and mentally being like, I'd rather be anywhere else but doing this right now. And you start thinking of all the places you'd rather be than going through this right now. And then obviously that leads to dropping out of races. And like
Yeah.
that's what it was for me. And like I said, it took longer than I would have liked to, but I realized, hey, like maybe this just isn't in the cards right now. And doubles is the way. Like I'm having fun racing with someone else. It's taking the pressure off of it. Like I'm doing this for something bigger than myself. And you know, honestly, like until Rylan passed away, that was still kind of my mindset. And even though I did have in the back of my mind, like I'm going to make it back to the Elite 15 on the individual side, but it wasn't something I was going to force or not force, but like it wasn't in my foreseeable future. Like doubles was what I wanted to do. And now I've kind of had to rethink what I'm going to do, this season. And I do have a doubles race coming up with a good buddy, Colin Stiefer.
Mhm.
I might team up with sorry, I'm forgetting his name, Sandy, Michael Sandbach, who is kind of in a very similar situation that I've been in,
Yeah.
where at when we're at our best, we're as good as anyone in the sport, but we just haven't been for whatever reason. We haven't been at our best. But like, hey, we could come together and try to you know overcome this and still prove we belong, and so that would be fun. But I think it's also I like Rylan's death had an immediate impact. It was like an immediate shift in the way that I think about life. Like it was just like immediate. And I think I've just been taking a lot of this because I've been doing it for so long, and I've accomplished a lot through many different ages over the years, to the point where I think I just started taking all of this for granted, and just like I don't know, like not appreciating what I can do um more, and just kind of relying on like everything that I've already done. Like, oh, I've already done enough. Like I don't need this anymore. But it's like this is me. Like this is my life. And um I think Rylan passing really made me kind of find that again, and realize that again, I should say. And I was like, all right, well, maybe this is an opportunity to go back to focusing on myself a little bit more. Maybe this is a sign that, hey, like you still got something in you on the individual side now. Like let's go see if we can do it, and do it for Rylan too,
Mhm.
you know? And it's been a strong motivator for me. And I went into that Boston race a few weeks back feeling like I was in 56 shape, and I know the result ended up being 58:30, but I was in 56 shape that day. There were, kind of fell apart on wall balls. I lost 45 seconds to a minute on wall balls. The runs, I was being pretty cautious on the runs because I was just scared a little bit of potentially things going sideways, and like the mental spiral of that. So I had 90 seconds in me on that day. Just I wasn't able to kind of showcase it. So I'm in the shape that I need to be in to try to qualify my way back in. Now it's just a matter of getting out there and doing it. I'll be in Atlanta in a few weeks, for that one. And honestly, I'm not putting a ton of my pressure on myself to uh, run a low 56 or a high 55. It's just like, hey, let's try to be a little bit better than we were in Boston. Like, let's not try to get it all back in one race or two races. Let's kind of tighten the screws a little bit each race. And after 4 or 5 races, maybe we're back where we think we can get to. But let's
Yeah.
not try to go get it all in one race.
Yeah. Like from afar, that like those steps make sense to me. Like I could see you were like had the DNFs and you were just struggling to finish, and then like it made sense to go and run a doubles because then you're doing it with someone else and you've got that extra motivated to finish. And then like yeah, things like just finishing a race and then getting that sub 60 and like not going
Right.
out too fast
It's
in the
it's the
aim of
little
getting
things, dude.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you sort of feel like a beginner, not a beginner, but like you're starting from a different place and you're trying
Mm,
to climb back to where you once were.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
And if you start a race like trying to chase the 55 that you got a few years ago, like you can go out too quick and like not finish the race. So it makes sense what you're doing, I think, certainly.
And those
Um,
races where you run a 55 or you set a world record, it's a magical day.
mm,
Everything is clicking.
mhm,
You honestly you feel no pain in those races. You're in that flow state that people talk about.
yeah.
And you can't expect to feel that way every single HYROX. It's just the odds are not in your favor.
Yeah,
It has to be like a very special circumstance. You can come within, a close percentage of that top end, but like performances like the one we saw Alex run, um, he's proven he can do that, but it'll take another special day from someone to trump what he did that
mhm.
day. And I guarantee if you go talk to that person who does it, they'll be the freshest person in the finishing area. Like they don't collapse on the floor afterwards. You're riding the high, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we sort of just touched on it, but what is your why for doing this? What's your why for competing in Hyrox? Is there a big over sort of whelming motivator for you?
I mean, I guess it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Like when you're raised in the jungle, for a lack of a better term, like you don't know what it's like to live in a civilized world. I don't know what it's like to wake up every single day and train for 60 minutes to 2 hours. I don't know what it's like to not have a race on the calendar and not be trying to attain the next goal. I've been goal setting for over 3 decades. Like I don't know a life where I get to wake up and just, you know, drink my cup of coffee and kind of ease my way into the day. Like I don't know a world that way. So in some ways I've been like, this is my mission. This is my purpose. And I believe that. And whether whether I want to or not, like this is what I have to do. Like
Mhm.
this is what I'm here for. So, my why is that I don't have a choice. This is the only thing for me, you know? And I'm going to love it or I'm going to do it even when it's going well and, even when it's not. And even when I age out and I'm demoted to age group, like I'm still going to chase. I'll have to, re, lower my standards or whatever, but it's like I'll always have something to chase. It's just going to be a matter of like what that is. And, um, obviously I do want to be a good role model for my kids and show them that, hey, like if you can work hard at something, put the time in, like you don't have to be the most talented person out there. Cause I've never thought that I was necessarily the most talented. It was just like, I can outwork you and I can will myself, to beat someone who's better than me. Um, and you know, I guess another thing would like it allows me to continue my relationship with my dad. Like even though he's not here, this was something that we shared together. And he went, his health started declining in HYROX these later years. So he wasn't at as many races, but he's been to so many over over the course of my life. And this was something we loved to do together. And he always joked, he was like, "Hey man, if HYROX was around when I was younger," he said, "Boy, I would have messed you up, man." And I'm like, "Okay, Dad, I'm sure you would have." But it's a way to kind of carry on his memory and still share that bond even through, even if it's just like his spirit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let's talk about your training a little bit, if that's all right.
Sure.
Do you have a coach, or do you just coach
No, no,
yourself?
I coach myself.
Okay.
And it's just I've always done it. I've always been once I got out of college, even when I was in college, I would like restructure like some of the training that the coach would give us. Certain quality sessions where the coach is present, like you got to do what they have planned. But anytime I could kind of tailor it to what I felt like I needed, I would do that. So it's just something I've always done. It's not that I wouldn't be open to it someday. But I've enjoyed coaching myself in the process that comes with that. Yeah.
What is it? What is your training volume in terms of like hours and running mileage?
I mean, it varies, but I would say right now I'm probably around 14 hours a week, maybe. So about 2 hours a day.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how much are you
And
running?
um, right now, 35 to 40 miles
Okay.
a week. So not a ton. I've definitely done more. I find I find when I bump up to 50 miles per week plus, I can only hold that for like 4 to 6 weeks. And then I have to like come back down. And so I find 35 to 40 is an area where I can like I don't have to worry about backing off like intensities or whatever. I'm going to be good at 35 to 40. Now, a race coming up 8 weeks out, like, hey, let's bump it up to that 50 and deal with the fatigue and, all that stuff. And, then we'll bring it back down. But 35 to 40 is a steady place I can be like all year round.
Do you feel like you do get a bit when you do bump up for that short period of time? Do you feel like that increased volume does give you a benefit? I mean, presumably
I
you do
don't,
because you do it, but
I don't know. I feel it mostly when I start to taper. I like to get up to like if you're always kind of riding like a moderate volume, the taper doesn't feel as great because you haven't felt the opposite end of
yeah.
which is like extreme fatigue. So I guess from that perspective, that's why I like it more so than any maybe noticeable like benefits other than like when that taper comes you feel like $1,000,000 because a few weeks earlier you were dreading every session, even like zone 2 days
Yeah.
where you don't even have to push it, so when that taper comes it just feels so good.
How's your training evolved over your time in HYROX? Have you like, you've been in the sport for quite a while now. Have you like changed your opinion on how to train for it in any way, would you say?
Oh man, I was actually looking through. I went down a rabbit hole last night where I was going back and looking at some of the training that I did leading not necessarily into Chicago in 2023. It was almost like what I was doing 6 months to a year before that, because ultimately that's kind of when it happens for you as an
Hmm.
athlete. It's not necessarily what you've done in the last couple weeks or even like the last month or two leading into that race. It's what you did 6 months out. Um, so that was fun for me to kind of go back and look on. But I guess, coming from a running background, I thought in the beginning I was just running and weightlifting. Really, that was like the only thing, and they were always separate. Like I really wasn't even combining, running with other things. It was just like, oh, I'll just be able to do that when the race comes, and as the sport progresses, people get better. It's like, all right, maybe I should practice this, you know, this race stuff, this compromised running, like in training. So it evolved into, not just running, not just weightlifting, but more compromised running. And then I would say the biggest thing is learning how to like structure out the year now. Like I could have these little short training blocks that would get me ready for a race, but I always struggled with like the year as a whole. And I think that has taken me 4 to 5 years, and I'm still learning. Trust me, I'm still learning, but I would say it's taken me 4 to 5 years to really get a good grasp on how to set up your year and how long you need to spend doing certain things. And it feels good to kind of have a system that I'm confident in and believe in, and I can share with others now. I try to get people to like bypass the mistakes that I've made, and
Yeah.
coming up. And I think that's a big reason why we see so many people coming in now and doing well kind of off the jump is they we don't have the formula per se, but like there's a good idea of like how to train for HYROX now. And we didn't have that
Mm-hmm.
back in 2018, 2019. It was just like,
Yeah.
all right, we'll take whatever fitness we got and let's go see what happens.
I guess something you sort of touched on as well is like you went down a rabbit hole of like looking at what you did 6 months leading up to your racing, 2 years ago. Like, but like that's an interesting point in itself. In that I think you do keep all your training logs, all your training diaries, don't you? And you can go back and look at that. And that's not necessarily something that a lot of people even have, is it?
No, and if they do nowadays, I think people do it it's all like on the computer
Mm-hmm.
in some file or whatever, I'm old school. I have pen and paper. I have every workout I've ever done logged in a notebook since 2007. So you're looking at 18 years of daily writing in that journal daily. And it's a fun way for reasons like last night when I went down that rabbit hole and just was like, wow, like I was doing this and that worked, like it was really fun for me. But what was it? Sorry, what was the question again?
It was
I got
just
sidetracked.
it was more just like highlighting the point that,
Oh,
that you do it really.
yeah. So it also keeps me accountable. That was the thing I was going to say is, if I don't sit down at the table every night and spend that 5 to 10 minutes, I know I didn't do my workout that day. And obviously there are rest days. It's not like I'm training every single day. I like to actually do a rest day every single week. Um, but it's a fun way to kind of write down what you did that day. Make a quick note. Hey, I felt like crap. Felt good. Felt weak. Felt strong. And then grade what my execution is on that day, even if it's like a zone 2 day. Did I keep it zone 2 or did I work too hard? Um, you know, um, just like little notes like that. It's fun to look back on and it keeps you accountable.
Mhm. Are
And
there
I
any?
think my boy, he sees me writing in it every night, and he's like, "Dad, this is your training." And I'm like, "Yeah, Daddy writes down his training." So I hope one day he can just go back and see. Like even if he wanted to do HYROX, he can go back and look and see what Daddy did. Like I've got the blueprint right here for you, bud. Like let's rock and roll.
Are there any from a running perspective? Are there any like workouts that you think are particularly important? Do you do a lot of threshold runs? Do you do a lot of higher intensity, higher speed runs? What feels particularly valuable to you?
That part has changed, I think, in my evolution as an athlete and a coach. Um, you know, I used to think speed mattered a ton, but it's like if you can't hold that speed for, 8K, it doesn't really matter. You need the strength, aka like the stamina to hold that. pace or a good percentage of that pace. So I've, obviously I've shifted a lot of like my interval work from like, I would say like more 5K, 10K training to more like half marathon to marathon training for the majority of like a prep. And then, coming into that A race, then kind of, shifting it back towards a little bit of over speed, kind of leading into the race, but still not getting away from like the core principles of threshold training, because I think that's going to be um, your best path to being good at HYROX. And that can be, I found benefit in doing things like 5 by 6 or 6 by 6 minutes with 60 seconds rest, or 5 by 8 minutes with 90 seconds rest. But sometimes it's those continuous runs that actually, at even if it's like a slower pace, it's kind of just like a dull, like, all right, this is kind of painful, but I can deal with this for a while. Like just sustained work for like 30 to 45 minutes steady. Um, I find a lot of bang for your buck in those kind of workouts. And I avoided them like the plague, man, because I never really liked to do them. But if you want to be good, you got to do the workouts you don't want to do sometimes.
How long might that be? Is that like what's that, like 45-minute run?
Yeah,
Or
45-minute run. Yeah,
yeah.
at like, it could even, one of the things I like to do, and I don't want to give away too many secrets, but like I like to do long tempos like that, like a 45-minute tempo run, take like a 5-minute break, and then go into like a 30 to 45 minute like station AMRAP at the same intensity that you were just doing on the run, but let's go do that for the same duration on some machines or some stations after that, and just
Nice.
working. I find building up a little fatigue before doing, and you could argue the other too. Like you could do the station work first and then do the tempo run after. There's obviously benefit to that as well. But I find I benefit more from doing the run first, because um I want to know what it feels like to hit those stations, kind of feeling gassed and
Mhm.
fatigued. Um, the running comes more natural for me. I can recover on the runs, but what happens if I come into a station and I don't have the output to freaking push a sled right now? Well, I've trained it under, crazy fatigue and training. So um that's like one of my like go-to workouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Nice.
it can be broken. That can be broken up. You can even do that like AM or PM. Like if you had to split it up into two sessions, you could. But if you're able to just take a 5 to 10 minute reset and then go into it, I find there's more benefit to that session.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, where do you think you're at for like a 5K or a 10K or a half marathon at the moment?
5K, I would say like 16:30.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Probably high 33. I could maybe dip under 34 for a 10K, maybe. Um, and then half marathon, maybe 115
Okay.
or so.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Um, from a mindset perspective, like we've talked about, sort of where your mind goes in a race and things like that. But do you, like, amongst like the elite of the sport, do you know? Do you feel like there are any common characteristics amongst you guys, amongst those athletes, that maybe separates you from other people?
I mean, I think so. I think everyone just has their own way of going about that. I think, when the race starts, I think everyone in the Elite 15 just has the ability to like flip a switch, whatever mindset they were in the start corral. It's like once they send you off, it's game on. And I think the thing we all share is the ability to just push ourselves to the absolute limit, and we're willing to endure crazy amounts of pain to get the result that we want to get that day. And I think it takes a special person to want to kind of push themselves to that limit. It's I don't you can train it to a certain extent, but you know, in some ways it's either like you got it or you either got the drive and the will and the determination to make it happen or you don't. Um, and that's something I think everyone in the Elite 15 they share. But in terms of like their personalities before, like some people are like super intense, like you're not going to talk to them before the race. And then there's others who are kind of high-fiving, joking around, like just shooting the breeze. But again, it's like once they send you off, man, like it's fucking game on.
What do you make of like the sport in general lately, like and the growth and the coverage that it's getting, and also like the Elite 15 qualifying process? Are you happy with all of that? You've got any opinions on all of that?
The only thing I'm not happy with in terms of the Elite 15 qualification is they allow times from majors to count as one of your two uh, average races to get you into the Elite 15. And I hate to say it, but those Elite 15 courses, I don't know if they're short, but they are faster than what you're going to get at, you know, whatever city HYROX race you show up to that's not an Elite 15 setup. There's just so many more advantages. There's no one on the run course. You got a clear running path. Like it's never going to be that ideal. Like when I show up in Atlanta in a few weeks, like I'm not going to have that. So that would be my only tweak that I wish they would make is like, hey, like these Elite 15 races, it's a completely different layout of the event. We're not going to count these towards one of your races to get you in or keep you in to the Elite 15. So, but other than that, man, it's been fun to watch because I've been watching it as a fan of the sport the last year plus, and it's great that we have some new faces in the sport, some new athletes on the come up. I still feel like I need to be in there. So that's been, I'm just like, dang, man, I want to be there. Um, but the sport is in a great place, and
Yeah,
HYROX really has done a great job, in continuing to grow this and build this thing up, and it's completely worldwide now. I mean, most people know what HYROX is. I mean, I was at the track the other day, and a lady was walking around. She's like, "What are you training for?" And I'm like, no way she knows what HYROX is, but I'm gonna say it. I'm like, I trained for HYROX. She's like, I know what that is. I saw that on like my Instagram or like something like that.
yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy to see where it is now and where it was at when I first came in. I did that first race in Miami that came to the States, and I've been a part of it ever since. And it's really fun to see where it is now. And I think this is still kind of we're just scratching the surface on
Yeah.
where it's going to go.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, this has been amazing. Thank you. It's good to get you on. It's good to see you. Boston performance. Good to see what you did in Chicago. Excited to see what you can do for the rest of the season. Um, is there anything else I should have asked you? And then also, like, if people want to follow you, find out more about you, where should they go?
Um, I want to say you've been doing a good job, by the way, on the live
Thank you.
streams. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Keeping till straight. All right.
I'll do my best.
Um, but no, yeah, you guys. I don't know. There's nothing really I can think of. But if you guys want to follow me, I'm at Drop the Hammer on Instagram. Come check us out at RMR Training. Um, Shout out to ESN. Uh, Shout out to GoWad. Appreciate all the support. It's no secret the last year and a half has been difficult for me, but there's still some people out there who believe in me. And a lot of these companies that I'm working with now, they easily could have been like, hey, like it's just not working out. And, good luck with everything, but they've kind of stood by my side, and I'm appreciative for that, and I'm appreciative of the community, the support that I've gotten through this. It feels good to feel like everyone's behind me and is kind of wishing for me to kind of get back to that elite 15 level. So just want to say thank you to everybody.